All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're taking a deep dive into EPL Ltd's second quarter performance, their fiscal year 2025.
EPL, the world's biggest specialty packaging company.
Exactly. Those laminated plastic tubes
Yeah.
everywhere.
Oh, yeah. Toothpaste, cosmetics, you name it. They're a global player operating in 11 countries. Over 3,500 employees. Big company.
Big company, and they just released their financials and investor presentation, so we're going to break it all down, see what's up with EPS performance, and what it could mean looking ahead.
So right off the bat, revenue growth, 8.4% overall this quarter. Not bad, but it gets interesting when you start digging into the specifics, like Europe, boom, a 21% jump in revenue. That's a serious turnaround story.
21%, wow. Europe's leading the charge this quarter. What do you think's behind that?
Well, they've been making strategic moves over there. New region president, restructured manufacturing, optimizing capacity, cutting costs, all that jazz. And their investor presentation really highlights how they focused on improving service for existing customers. Seems to have helped grab a bigger piece of the pie.
Smart move. Focusing on those existing relationships and look at the results. So if Europe's killing it, what about other regions?
Americas, East Asia Pacific, both saw near double-digit growth, so it's not just a Europe thing. They're doing well globally.
So they're growing. And here's the kicker, profitably. Their EBITDA margin, 20%. Healthy, up 188 basis points year over year.
For every $100 in sales, they're pocketing 20 as operating profit. That's a jump.
Nice. And their profit after tax, Pat, a whopping 72.3% increase year over year.
Driven by that strong EBITDA, stable depreciation, and interest costs. For our listeners, this is good news. More efficient, more profitable. That's what gets investors excited.
Now, I got to ask, not every region is performing equally right. We've got AMESA, Africa, Middle East, South Asia, 3.7% revenue growth. Not terrible, but not 21% either. And their EBITDA margin down 210 basis points year over year. What's the deal there?
Yeah, AMESA, definitely something to watch. It's still a big chunk of EPL's revenue, but those shrinking margins, that could be a sign of trouble brewing. We'll have to see how they address it in the coming quarters.
It's like they've got this powerful engine, but one of the tires might be a little flat. Got to fix that before it slows them down.
Good analogy.
What?
Now switching gears, America's solid 9.4% revenue growth. And get this, EBITDA, up a whopping 59%. Something's working over there.
What's driving that success?
Brazil, that's a big part of it. They're really expanding down there.
Yeah.
Remember, EPL laminated tubes for everything from toothpaste to cosmetics. They snagged another multinational corporation as a customer in Brazil, adding to the two they already had, plus their anchor customer. That shows they're serious about penetrating that market.
They're making a splash. And that ties right into their personal care and beyond segment. Beauty, cosmetics, pharmaceuticals. That's now 48% of their tube revenue, growing faster than their traditional oral care business.
Shows they're not just sticking to oral care. Investing in innovation, specific capabilities for this high-growth segment, and it's paying off. Not resting on their laurels, which is crucial in a competitive market. Good news for investors.
It's like they're not selling tubes, they're selling solutions. Tailored to each market, pretty smart. But let's talk sustainability. It's a big deal for EPL. Increasing recyclable tubes, they got that EcoVadis Gold rating, top 2% globally. And now they're aiming for platinum.
It's smart. Consumers want eco-friendly products. Investors are looking at sustainability more and more. This makes them attractive to both.
Good for the planet, good for business, and they're getting recognized for it. Great Indian ESG Org of the Year, Factory of the Year, at the Print Week Awards 2024.
Oh yeah, forgot about those. Impressive.
And those awards, they highlight something else. EPL's workforce, employees from 25 different nationalities.
That's a strength, right. Fosters creativity, adaptability, and a global perspective, all crucial in today's world.
So we've got growth, profitability, sustainability, a diverse workforce. Sounds great, but what about the bottom line for investors? What's their financial health like, and what about their prospects?
Their return on capital employed, ROCE, up to 16.5%. That's a 260-point increase year over year. Using capital efficiently to generate profits, always a good sign.
Excellent.
And their net debt to EBITDA ratio improved to 0.76x from 0.88x year over year. That's healthy, good balance between debt and earnings.
So financially, they're in a good spot. We don't have explicit guidance for the rest of fiscal year 2025, but based on what we've seen, what's your take?
I'd say EPL is well positioned for continued growth. Strategic initiatives, especially in those high growth segments like personal care and beyond, and their focus on sustainability, should drive revenue and profit growth.
Sounds promising. But like any investment, gotta look at both sides of the coin.
Right. Always risks and challenges to consider. We'll dig into those in the next part of our deep dive. All right, back to our deep dive.
We've seen a lot of positives, but gotta look at the other side, right? What challenges could EPL be facing down the road?
Well, first thing that comes to mind, the global economy. Inflation's still a headache. Talk of a possible recession could put a damper on consumer spending.
Right, people tighten their belts, cut back on non-essentials, like cosmetics, personal care products, the things EPL's tubes are used for. Weak economy, lower demand, even if their products are great.
Exactly. And then there's input costs.
Yeah.
Polymer, aluminum, key materials for EPL. Those prices have been all over the place. If they spike again, it could squeeze their margins.
Yeah, even if they sell the same amount, higher costs eat into profits. Double whammy. They've got that War on Waste initiative to manage costs. But even the best plans can only do so much against global forces. Anything else on your radar?
Competition. EPL's the leader in laminated tubes, but there's always someone trying to catch up. Global players, regional players, everyone wants a piece of the pie. EPL can't get complacent.
Gotta stay ahead of the game, keep innovating, not just products, but sustainability too. What about those new technologies? Anything that could disrupt the whole industry?
Nothing major on the horizon right now, but things change fast. Got to keep an eye on those packaging trends.
Absolutely. Now back to sustainability. We talked about the EcoVadis Gold rating, but they're aiming for platinum. That's ambitious. What could trip them up?
Sustainability is huge now, and for good reason. Consumers want eco-friendly options. Regulations are getting stricter everywhere. For EPL, platinum status means going all out, looking at their whole supply chain, responsible sourcing, reducing waste, emissions, even what happens to the packaging at the end of its life.
Sounds complicated. And it's not just about checking boxes, right? Consumers want to see real action, not just greenwashing.
Totally. Transparency is key. Consumers can smell BS a mile away. EPL needs to back up their claims with real action, show they're making a difference.
All right, back to growth. EPL is betting big on that personal care and beyond segment. Big opportunity, but big challenges too. What do you think?
That market, it's constantly changing. EPL needs to be on their toes, ahead of the trends, understanding what consumers want before they even know it, and then delivering those products.
It's not just tubes, it's about the specific needs of those products, customized solutions.
Right, like cosmetic packaging. That's got to look good, function perfectly. EPL's got to nail the design, materials, even how the product dispenses to win over those customers.
Their investor presentation mentions some interesting stuff. Tubes for pet lice treatment, even dry hair gel. Pretty niche, right? Are they just experimenting, or is this a sign they're spreading themselves too thin?
I think it's a good sign. Shows they're open to new things, willing to try new markets.
Like a venture capitalist, you have your core investments, but you also take some calculated risks.
Balance.
Exactly. Now, we've talked external challenges, but there are internal ones too. Things investors should keep an eye on.
Yeah, those can be just as important. What comes to mind?
Execution risk. EPL has big plans, expanding in Brazil, sustainability goals, all that. But can they actually pull it off? They need the right people, efficient use of resources, a strong culture that supports innovation and accountability.
And as they grow, keeping things running smoothly across the whole company, that gets harder. You said it. Manufacturing, quality control, supply chain, all got to be top-notch everywhere. Any slip-ups could hurt their reputation and their bottom line.
Another thing, leadership. We saw those changes in Europe. Do they have enough strong leaders ready to step up? What about succession planning, making sure the next generation is ready?
Huge question for any company, especially global ones like EPL. Investors should be looking at their talent development programs, promotions, how well they attract and keep top talent.
So having the right people at the helm, today and tomorrow.
Exactly. Strong leadership, clear vision. That's what drives long-term success.
So we've covered EPL's performance, the good and potentially not so good. The question is, can they keep this momentum going? What does their future hold?
That's what we'll be discussing in the final part of our deep dive. Their prospects, the risks, what it all means for our listeners. Stay tuned.
Welcome back. We're wrapping up our deep dive into EPL Ltd. We've covered a lot of ground, their performance, their strategy, the challenges, the opportunities. So what's next for EPL? What should our listeners be thinking about?
Predicting the future is always tricky, but looking at everything, I'd say EPL is in a pretty good position for continued success. They're agile, they're innovative, and they're really committed to sustainability, and that's something that appeals to both consumers and investors.
Yeah, it's more than just making tubes. It's about the kind of company they want to be. And it's working. Remember those awards? Great Indian ESG Org of the Year, Factory of the Year. That's not just talk, they're putting their money where their mouth is.
And their workforce. That diversity, employees from 25 different nationalities, that's a huge asset. So many different perspectives, experiences. It helps them be creative and adapt to the global market.
And speaking of adapting, they seem to be good at spotting trends, capitalizing on them. Moving into that personal care and beyond segment, that was smart. Position them for growth in a really hot market.
And their expansion in Brazil, that's showing real promise. Getting those new multinational clients there, that could turn Brazil into a major growth driver if they can keep it up.
But of course, there are key factors that will determine their success going forward. Operational excellence, that's huge, especially as they expand globally. Consistent quality, efficient manufacturing, a strong supply chain, that's all crucial for maintaining their reputation and keeping customers happy.
No doubt about it. Any missteps there, and it could have a domino effect. Hurt their brand, impact their financials.
And then there's that sustainability challenge.
Yeah.
Reaching EcoVadis Platinum status, that's a big goal. They really have to examine every part of their business, make some tough choices to minimize their environmental footprint.
And they've got to be transparent about it all. Consumers are savvy these days. They can spot greenwashing from a mile away. EPL needs to show, not just tell, how they're making a difference.
So for our listeners, we've given you a pretty in-depth look at EPL Ltd, where they stand now, their strategy, what they're facing. What do you think? What's the biggest opportunity or the biggest hurdle for EPL? Global expansion, sustainability, maybe the competition.
And let's not forget, those input costs, they've been volatile, and that's something they'll have to keep managing carefully.
It's a bit of a chess game, really. EPL has to anticipate what their competitors will do, adapt to the economy, consumer trends, even geopolitics. It's complex.
But from what we've seen, they've got a good team, a solid strategy, and they're willing to adapt. They're not just along for the ride, they're steering the ship.
So what does all this mean for you, our listener? EPL is a really interesting example of a company that's embracing change, pushing innovation, and trying to build a more sustainable future. Whether they achieve all their goals, that's still to be determined, but they're definitely a company to watch.
We've given you the information. Now you can follow their journey, form your own opinions. Will they become the leader in sustainable packaging? Will they conquer new markets, keep growing? Only time will tell.
That's what makes it all so exciting, isn't it? The future is wide open, and companies like EPL are writing their story one tube at a time.
So stay curious, keep learning, and who knows, maybe you'll even play a part in shaping the future of packaging.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring and keep those questions coming.